I was just going to say thank you so much for having this event. My concern is I feel that my tax is just going to keep going up and up. I think we're going to see 10% sales tax. I think that's on the table because an economic downturn is looming. The Las Vegas economy is fragile. It's based on easy credit and speculating on real estate. This is a sham. And the problem with higher taxes, now it's not always a bad thing, but it depends on who's being taxed and what's being funded. Sure. Now, if you look at the states like California and New York and Illinois, it has the record. People are leaving, businesses are fleeing, they're bad laws. And this is the number one fear that a lot of people have. We don't want California policies. This is probably why we have the current president. This is why people have fears of immigration, because they fear that we may hit with the voting system. And I think when you talk about more funding, I think you have to look at the high six-figure administrative salaries. That's where the problem is. There's a lot of waste in that needs to be cleared up before we get more funding. And believe it or not, in a nutshell, I just think that the establishment of this state is messed up. I feel like the casinos, real estate, and phony labor unions have too much power. And I think we need a bipartisan effort to
Do you have a question, Cyrus?
Is 10% sales tax really on the table? Because I think it really hurts the poor. I think it's regressive. And I think that other sectors like casinos or wire money transfers like Western Union, I think they can be taxed.
I don't know whether 10% sales tax is on the table. I know there's been some proposals that have been thrown around. I don't know whether
Well, when is it going to stop? The tax increase.
I don't have the control over all of that. Obviously, the legislature addresses some of those issues. So
I don't foresee a 10% tax increase. I know there's a proposal. That's something that one group is choosing to do through a ballot initiative. Mm-hmm. So that means that people would have to, it goes directly to the voters. So if you as a voter are saying that that's not something you want, I mean, that's in your hands. So that's not.
These are better.
So.
Well, again, we need to listen to all kinds of ideas, but that's not a proposal that.
So can you admit that California is doing things that are wrong, please?
I'm actually not focused or studying on what California is doing, so.
we're Nevadans. We're going to focus on what's best for Nevada.
Yeah.
Other questions?
Cookie cutter plan.
Other questions?
Everyone, we are here in Coffee Roasters with Assemblywoman Brittany Miller and Commissioner Justin Jones. Traffic accidents, first of all, is our intersection design. I go down on Fort Apache and what's that street's name? Patrick. There's like stop signs on the two sides of the 2-lane road, and then the 6-lane road, there's no traffic light. There should have been lights there. I was raised in Orange County. As soon as they build the areas, they put the traffic lights. Speaking of Orange County, I graduated from one of the highest ranking schools in the country. When my family moved there, my grades plummeted. And I just want to say, if you guys think that, oh, if Clark County performance goes up, we're all going to live happily ever after, I don't buy into it. I don't think school performance is a measure of how the student is going to grow up and contribute to society, or where they actually even learn. Now, another thing I just wanted to point out is Title 30. And my question is, when can we have a meeting to reform Title 30? The largest issue I've had living here is the urban planning and architecture, this car dependency, separating land uses, cul-de-sacs. All of this nonsense has got to stop. We have to bring back the benefits of the 1920s urban planning into our outer fringe areas.
Yeah, I don't know about 1920s, but I can tell you what. So Chapter 30 is the zoning code for Clark County. Every 5 years we do a comprehensive master plan update. So that is looking at the entire county and saying, hey, these are the land uses we want to talk about. These are new ideas that have come up in the last 5 years. And so as part of that 5-year update, we are doing a consultant. We have hired a consultant who will be on the ground next month to start looking at what updates to Title 30 need to happen. And so there will be public meetings that will start probably second quarter of this year to talk about Title 30. So Cyrus, you're welcome to go to the public meetings.
All right, everybody, we are here at the 215 and Jones Boulevard, and as you can see, people are fighting back, and they're saying impeach Susie Lee because she voted for the impeachment. It was a complete disgrace. Spread the word.
I I notice that every morning.
It's just the Californians. It's not.
Yeah, I
So you noticed that too.
Woo, yeah.
I was told that there's a state law that prohibits local jurisdictions from enacting intersection cameras for
We don't
people
want
who.
intersection.
Could I finish?
Yeah.
Okay. And the reaction that I get from people is, oh no, Nevadans are too independent. We don't want controls, even though it's going to save lives and cut these T-bone accidents. You know, what's the mood of the legislature, if any, to change that ridiculous prohibiting law?
The design is the problem.
I don't know about the mood because this is literally the first time someone's asking
But
me
there's
this.
been
So,
several
about the
studies from,
cameras, yeah.
Can you let her
many
finish, please?
Yeah, I'm trying to
Thank
help
you.
you with your answer, by the way. There's been several studies, particularly in California, New York, Chicago, that talked about the cameras. The interesting thing about the cameras is it stopped most accidents from car to pedestrian, but not many accidents from car to car. That's what the study showed. Now, I'm for saving lives no matter what it does.
They all need to slow down.
Exactly. I'm really for saving lives. But I think the important part for us is the yellow lights are so long here, and then sometimes they're not so long. People do run those red lights quite a bit.
So what's your take?
My take is it's actually not a question that someone's presented to me before, and it's not something that, while I've been there, that we've actually discussed with the cameras and stuff like that. So I'd be interested to talk to you further about it and to research it and kind of go back into the background on why those laws were put into place. Because I agree that we do have an enormous amount of accidents, and we do have, we definitely have some erratic driving and driving issues here. So yes, I would definitely like to.
What is the state in Carson City, or is it a local issue to kind of alleviate the obvious problem here? It's a safety issue for everybody.
So at the local level, obviously there's enforcement issues, obviously, with our Metro Traffic Division, and so we have more officers on the street now than we did a few years ago, so that's good. But there are other things that go to intersection design.
Amen.
And Public Works, Clark County Public Works is definitely, and RTC also, are focused on what are proven technologies. And so in terms of signalization, coordinating of signals, and also flashing yellow left turn signs, things like that. So they're definitely looking at that and what works and what doesn't. And one of the things that's proven to be most effective is if you notice on all of the, I can't see it on the light out there, but if they put the yellow reflective strip around the light, the lights, if you look, as you're driving home, look at the signals and see whether they have the yellow strip around the signals themselves. Those have proven to be extremely effective in forcing people to look up and see whether it's a yellow or red light. And so the county has, all new signals have the yellow reflective strip around them, and we are going back and retroactively fitting all of the prior ones with that yellow reflective strip. So we're definitely focused on the things that have proven to work.
Thank God.
Infrastructure in Vegas, 40 really, perhaps moving around wealth. We have the largest gap between the rich and the poor because government has unfortunately prioritized certain industries and certain corporations. So I want to end subsidies, virtually all. We have corporate welfare, and we have more corporate welfare than we probably have for everybody else.
We do.
And we have to do something about ending that pipeline of finance that's going to the private market. They don't need help. They can pay for it themselves. And this is actually where the free market actually comes into play, because the free market prohibits that. You're actually having competition happen without any guidance or regulation from the government. So I think we can start there. And we can work on eradicating and eroding certain mechanisms that we have in place that prioritize or elevate certain people just because they are the leaders of a certain industry. we should have no favorites. We should allow them to pay their own bills and to succeed on their own accord.
May I respond? Or?
Sure, go ahead.
So the CEO of MGM Resorts, probably the most powerful person in our state who gives massive campaign contributions, he has a total compensation of $35 million or so a year. And then his employees, some of them get subsidy. I think this is absurd. And this is the same case with Walmart and Amazon, and many of them don't pay any corporate income taxes. So, you know, I think that when these high gap gets so absurd, I think there should be a ratio. I think there should be saying, look, a CEO cannot have total compensation of 50 times more than the bottom employee. And, you know, back in the 60s and 70s, the ratio pay was like 1 to 30, and now it's 1 to 200. So, you know, and these are levels that we saw in the Gilded Age. And again, I'm not advocating for socialism, but I think some regulation is necessary. Just like Glass-Steagall, when it was put into place, we separated the banks, and we didn't have this risky commercial activities. Bill Clinton deregulated, and that caused the 2008 meltdown, and still nothing has happened.
So you're specifically talking about the ratio. You want to institute a ratio of pay for just for CEOs? Is that what you?
CEOs and bottom pay. And I actually think regulation sometimes actually helps with Wall Street, with many other things. You know, gutting of Glass-Steagall is what caused the meltdown, and it's going to be the cause of the next meltdown we're going to have pretty soon.
Well, sure. I mean, corporations have different ways of paying their employees. They have different structures that they institute. I work for a company where our CEO has a compensation package that is tied into meeting certain goals. Other than that, he gets a very minimal pay in comparison to many other CEOs who are running multi-billion-dollar corporations.
Right.
I do like the fact that there are some corporations that do give out dividends to their employees. I think that's a great form, and I think that's something that should be dictated upon the corporation themselves. We all make a choice on where we want to work, and you know, if you don't support a corporation that pays their CEO more than you believe they're worth, I wouldn't bother working for them. I don't think we should put regulations on that because, again, that prohibits and it puts boundaries on the market. You're not really allowing the market to act out on itself. Competition is important, and at the same time, we also see CEOs that get paid a lot and they get let go not very long after that.
Right, but quick response, sometimes capitalism does lead to oligarchies, and we saw that in the Gilded Age, and this is where the Sherman antitrust came along, and I think we should apply that to the strip hotels. We have to break up these companies and allow more competition to come in. Every sector of the economy, we have 5 or 6 companies, and not all of it is because of subsidies and special giveaways that you've talked about. Some of it is because they buy themselves out, and it leads to a lot of oligarchy.
But at the same time, we also have MGM, which is also dissolving a lot of their assets. So we're seeing some of that break down. So there are changes that happen naturally in the market. Again, I wouldn't implement any sort of pay ratio because we also want to ensure that we do have a proper incentive for people to lead these companies. Because it's still a very difficult job. Leading MGM, I'm sure, is a difficult job. Whether or not we agree on whether or not he's doing an excellent job or deserves his pay, we don't want to have any say in your company and how you want to pay your employees.
Thank you.